This is my presentation of the celestial body Pluto, which is part of the ring of bodies behind the eighth planet Neptune. Pluto was discovered in 1930 by an American astronomer from the Lowell Observatory, and the name was approved by the International Astronomical Union as the ninth planet. The location of Pluto is extremely far away from the Sun, so it is difficult for telescopes to identify it clearly. Pluto orbits the Sun once every 248 years, and it was a planet for 76 years before being demoted. This means that Pluto did not complete even one full orbit around the Sun before it was demoted as a planet. Pluto is very cold, with temperatures being 300 below zero. The geography of Pluto consists of craters filled with ice, mountains comparable to the Rocky Mountains on Earth, and has canyons as large as the Grand Canyon. A third of the planet is also made up of water, and it is smaller than the Earth's moon. It also has a heart-shaped glacier the size of Texas on its surface. Pluto's orbit is very special. It is very different from the 8 larger planets. As you can see, there is an extreme tilt to the orbit that cannot be seen in any of Pluto's neighbors. The tilt is at 17 degrees, and the path is oval-shaped. It also intersects with the orbit of Neptune. This occurs with no other planets in any of their orbital paths. Neptune and Pluto have never collided either. Sometimes Pluto's orbit brings it closer to the Sun than Neptune at some points. The closer to the Sun it is, the more Pluto has an atmosphere. These abnormalities make Pluto stand apart from its 8 neighbors. Pluto is small, but it also has moons. There are a total of 5 moons orbiting Pluto. They are called Chiron, Styx, Nix, Cerberus, and Hydra. These names are all associated with the Roman god of the underworld, Pluto. The name Pluto was previously chosen by an 11-year-old girl. The first moon, Chiron, references the ferryman of the dead in the Greek mythology. Styx is the name of the goddess of the river of the underworld. Nyx is the name of the Greek goddess of darkness and night, who is the mother of the ferryman of the underworld. Next, Cerberus is the name of the dog that guards the underworld. Finally, Hydra is the name of the 9-headed serpent that fought Hercules in Greek mythology. The first moon, Chiron, is so large that Pluto is locked in sync with it, and some scientists consider calling them a double dwarf planet. There is suspicion that the moons were created after a massive collision because of how the moons are shaped, the craters on Pluto, and the way Pluto is tilted. What is a planet? The former definition of a planet was that a planet is a round object that is going around the Sun. When scientists applied this to the special case of Pluto, they realized that it would not only make Pluto a planet, but also that it would exponentially increase the number of planets after Pluto due to the large number of smaller masses in the outer parts of the solar system and the Kuiper belt. Therefore, scientists got together to create a new working definition. They decided that a planet can only be officially named a planet if it clears the neighborhood around its orbit. Pluto exists in a cluttered field of comets and other space debris. So, by this definition, Pluto would not be considered a planet. Most of the scientific world considers Pluto a dwarf planet. Dwarf planets are planets that have stopped mid-stage of growth. They are considered embryo planets because they did not accumulate enough material to grow into a larger planet like Saturn. There is a theory that dwarf planets were born in a different region than where they reside in the Kuiper Belt. The idea is that they were flung there by the gravitational forces of the giant planets. Under the dwarf category, there are also asteroids that are large enough to be included. The celestial bodies in this category are neither planets nor satellites. They must be in orbit with the star and must be massive enough for gravity to compress in on itself into a sphere. The main difference between dwarf planets and planets is that they are not large enough to move the debris around them to make a clear path for their orbit. There is also the potential for these smaller planets to have moons that are not spherical. The classification was created in 2006 especially for Pluto and the planet after Pluto named Eris, the potential 10th planet. Some reasons why Pluto should be considered a planet is that Pluto has 5 moons, while some planets closer to the Sun do not have any. Also, Pluto is still a legal planet in the states of New Mexico and Illinois because of legislation. Also, dwarf planets are still considered planets. They are just stopped mid-growth. Another reason that Pluto should be considered a planet is that Pluto has enough of a tilt and is large enough to have a seasonal effect due to the greenhouse gases given off by the melting ice on the surface and those gases' interactions with the sun. Finally, the working definition of planet is flawed because it only factors in the location of a celestial form and those celestial forms around it, and not the characteristics of the actual body. Some reasons as to why Pluto should not be considered a planet is that it is small in mass and size. The Earth is 6 times larger than Pluto. Another reason is the eccentric orbit that it has. There are planets orbiting each other in this case because Pluto's largest moon are so similar in size that they pull on each other. Also, it has the most tipped orbit in the solar system, even intersecting with another planet's orbit, Neptune, which no other planet in the solar system does. Pluto is also an ice-based planet, much like comets and asteroids of the Kuiper Belt. Because of this quality, it fits in more with those kinds of space masses than the planets closer to the Sun. This is the end of my presentation. I found that through my research on Pluto, it is a controversial topic because Pluto represents much more than just a planet. It represents a more complicated universe than what was previously known. Technology is just now catching up, where we can send probes to these faraway planets and learn more about the celestial bodies that are so far out of reach. Science is still changing and evolving, so maybe someday soon Pluto will be considered a full-fledged planet again.